This is Abby from Realistic Kitchen and Gardens, and today we are making a whole sheet pan meal from scratch with chicken, broccoli, and sweet potato. I use a whole chicken and I cut it up because I think it's cheaper than just buying chicken breast. This is meat that I bought same day, same vendor, and as you can see, chicken breast is way more expensive. Also, for your reference, this is the broccoli I use at the end. First, we're going to start with our sweet potatoes. I think sweet potatoes are a good example for you guys as to what is a fairly difficult vegetable to chop up because it's so hard. So here's a hold that I want to show you called choked up on the knife so that your wrist isn't apt to flop over sideways and slip off the vegetable and cut you. So we're just going to dice this up in maybe 3/4 to 1 inch cubes. You start by cutting it in half and then into big sticks, and then you cut those sticks into dices. This is a really good vegetable to practice on. It's delicious no matter what shape it is. Then we just spread it out thin into one layer, and I actually did one more pick through just in case. Here's a spot I missed that has a little soft, yucky spot, so I just pulled that out. And then we're doing onions. Quick tip on onions, don't bother trying to peel it while it's whole. Cut it in half first. Then you can actually grab the edges that are peeled and it comes off way easier. There's also this really thin film on onions that you want to make sure you grab. It actually sticks to the underside of each layer and it's very, very slippery. Your knife can go right off it. So just make sure you grab that. Then we just pop each end off, and I actually slice them long skinny ways, kind of along the axis of it, not short ways like you would dice it. And then to split that up, you just crumble them along on top. When you're chopping vegetables, don't rush, it's just dangerous. Anyway, salt and pepper, and I use avocado oil. It has a very high smoke point, so you won't smoke yourself out of your kitchen when you're roasting vegetables. The oven is set for 475. This will both brown the chicken and cook the meat fast. And here we are at the chicken. If you don't want to see me cut up a whole chicken, please skip ahead. This is for utility's sake, and I do it to save money and use more of the bird. So there. We're going to bring the wings out far and then slice so you can actually see where the joint is, and I point there to the joint tip, basically the shoulder. Sometimes I will save all these wings to make actual chicken wings in the summer, but I don't really make chicken wings in the winter and it's March, so a little too early for me. For the legs, you're going to put the bird on its chest and then separate along kind of the equivalent of the groin, I guess, on them. And you want to look in to see the joint where the leg meets the hip, and you're going to push the hip up towards you so that the leg pops out a joint and you can slice between it rather than damaging your knife. I have to say I did kind of hit the joint because the cutting board kept moving so much. And then when you slice through the joint and you bring up towards yourself, make sure you remove pressure. You let your sharp knife do your work so that when you come through the skin, you don't immediately fly into your own arm and cause further problems. My husband loves these bone-in legs, and they're a lot more forgiving to cook than just thighs and drumsticks. Again, just exposing that bone and then cutting through the joint. Again, make sure you know where your fingers are. Don't just blindly cut. I don't want to hear anyone getting their fingertip cut off because they were trying to pull the leg off a chicken. Also, here on screen is where you would cut the drumsticks if you want separate thighs and drumsticks. And then we're going to do boneless breasts. Feel the meat, and then feel the keel bone, which is the bone that runs between the two breasts, so you know what your reference point is, and cut as close to the keel as you can so that you get as much meat as possible, and you're going to go down until you basically hit the rib cage. And then you're going to pull the meat away, and you're going to follow along the rib cage so that you're just scraping meat off the rib cage rather than slicing through meat. That will give you the most amount of meat. This will also dull your knife a bit, so start with a sharp knife, and if you need to stop and sharpen your knife, do it. Mine was already starting to get dull. And then here is where the chicken breast ends, so you can just trim off all that extra skin that connects down towards the groin. And that is a boneless chicken breast. Note that tendon that's up near the top of that chicken tenderloin. They're really tender meat, and they have these little tendons or ligaments that run practically the whole length in them. Sometimes they can be chewy. You can try to pull them out, but unfortunately it really shreds the meat. So do it if you want. I don't bother anymore. And then we're going to do the other side. I sped this up a little since we just did one. And there's that big tendon again. You can see it better on this side. And then some people's favorites is the frame. I save this to make stock. And then the seasoning is half a teaspoon of summer savory, 1 teaspoon of onion powder or granules, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder or granules, half a teaspoon of dried sage, half a teaspoon of celery powder, and salt and pepper to taste. If you don't have summer savory, use half the volume of oregano and thyme, and then celery salt if you don't have celery powder. And then about 1/4 to half a cup of oil. We're going to take our veg out, give it a good stir, and you can either lay your chicken right on top of your vegetables, which I did, or you can separate them on the sheet pan. Separating them would keep all the potatoes crispy. So then we're going to mix up and put on that marinade, that seasoning. You want to get under the skin and on top of the skin. If you're squeamish, just put gloves on. It's fine, it's just chicken. Wash your hands thoroughly with chicken. There is no such thing as too much of a rush to wash your hands. And then return to your 475-degree oven. You're going to need 25 to 30 minutes. My oven actually needed 26 minutes, but I of course cooked it for 27 minutes and got it a little over. So minimum fresh out of the oven needs to be 155 Fahrenheit for breasts, and thighs need to be 160. The meat will continue to heat up as it rests, and it will go up around 5 degrees Fahrenheit. Also, rest your meat for 5 to 10 minutes. If you don't rest it and you cut right into it, all those lovely juices are going to just spill out, and then you're going to think your meat is really dry and disgusting. So just rest it on a clean board. Don't use the original cutting board because you only want one cutting board. That's how you get foodborne illness too. Once the meat's rested, serve it up with the sweet potato and the broccoli, and it was delicious. It took me an hour start to finish. Hope you enjoy. If you like this stuff, like, comment, subscribe, and follow along for more.